If you're a new developer and want to learn about JavaScript functions, or simply just want to know about JavaScript functions, then this is the video for you. I'm a senior software engineer and I've got more than 10 years experience in software development and especially JavaScript. So by the end of this video, you will have a really good understanding of what JavaScript functions are and how you can use them. And also some other little tips and tricks that I've learned over the past 10 years, I'm also going to give you. But before we get started, an important thing that I've got to say is any video on YouTube, it will not get promoted any further if you don't give it a like or you don't write a comment in it and have some form of user interaction. So it would really do me a favor if you gave the video a like or give me some feedback at the end of what you thought about it. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I'm a firm believer in demonstrating something that I'm going to do before I actually explain it. So in this short clip coming up now, I'm going to quickly create a function that's going to take a parameter and it's going to output hello and the name. And if that name is undefined, it's going to output hello undefined. And then you're going to see it output in the console. So let's start it now and you can see it being demonstrated. So we're going to create a function called say hello. And this is going to take a name parameter. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to say output name, and this is going to say if name is equal to undefined, then we're going to say world, and if it is not undefined, then we're going to say name. We're then going to say console.log and hello and space output name, and let's put a space here, and then we can come to the bottom here and say hello David, and this will output then hello David, and we can say hello here, and this will then say hello world. And if we come and run our script at the bottom, we can see here hello David, hello world. Very, very simple. That is it. Now I'm going to explain exactly what I've done. So the first question that we want to answer is, what is a function? Well, this is a function here on the screen. It says function is the key word followed by a name, and the name of our function is say hello. Functions can also take parameters. In this situation, it only took one, and that was the person's name. And within inside of the curly braces, that is all the instructions that will be executed in our function once it's called. So essentially, what is a function? A function is a piece of code that contains a lot of set of instructions that will be executed when you call that function by saying the function name, in this situation say hello, followed by open and close brackets, and if it does take any parameters, that's where the parameters go within inside of the brackets, and all parameters are then comma separated. But we'll talk about parameters a little bit further in this video. Okay, so now we know what a function is. Now we need to answer the question, how do you call or execute the block of instructions that you have created? So let's have a look at this next example. As you can see here, I've created a function that's called add, and this takes two parameters, num1 and num2. And if we look inside of the function, between the curly braces here, we can see what it does. It says return num1 plus num2 followed by a semicolon. This is an instruction, and what it's saying is that num1 should be added to num2, and the result of this should then be returned. So what our function is doing is it's adding num1 to num2 and then returning the result. So we can use this function multiple times and know exactly what's going to happen every single time. So let's have a look at the code we've got already. I've initialized and declared a variable called total with the value of 0. We then say console.log total is, and then the total. So it's going to be 0. So we now come to line 6 and we see that we're assigning the value of whatever the result is of add to that of total once again. And after this on line 7 we say console.log total is total once again. And we continue doing the same thing on line 9. We once again assign the result of add to then total, and we output it once again. So what you can see here is that we're expecting that it's then the add function is basically adding the two numbers together and returning it, and we're assigning the result, the return value of add to then total every single time. So let's have a look at what this outputs. And if we come to the console and run this once again, you'll see total is 0, total is 5, total is 8. So it's very, very simple. As you can see, in order to use a function or call a function or execute a function, what you have to do is you have to use the name of the function followed by the brackets, the parentheses. And if it does take any parameters, then you add all of the parameters, making sure they're all separated by commas. Now, if a function doesn't take any parameters, then in this situation, you would just say add and open and close brackets. But because our add function is expecting 2 parameters, that's why we said num1 and then num2. So this is how you call or execute a function. So now we know what a function is and how we can call or execute a function. We've also seen functions that take some parameters using the add function and also the say hello function. But what we haven't really talked about is the return value. Now, in the last example with the add, that returned the result of num1 plus num2. But in this next example, I'm really going to dive a little bit deeper into how return values work and how we can use them. So let's get started. So let's just quickly run over the code that I've got on the screen. On line 2, I've defined a variable that is called isRunning, and that has the default value of false. And it is a variable, which means it can change. If we go down to line 4, you can see that I've declared a function called starts. In the body of this function, you can see that I'm setting isRunning equal to the value of true. Now moving on to line number 8, you can see that I've defined another function called stop. This does the reverse of starts, and it sets isRunning variable to false. Now moving down to line 12, you can see that I've defined a variable called canStart. In this function, the body of it is saying basically if isRunning is equal to false, then the application can start, because the application is not running already. And once again, if we go down to then line number 16, you can see another function called canStop. This does the reverse, and it is checking if isRunning is equal to true, indicating that the application is running and that we can actually stop it. There is no explicit way in vanilla JavaScript to declare what the return type is. It's really more based upon the name of the function. A good developer will name a function that indicates whether or not it will return something. Now, in the start and stop function, you do not see us using return void. If you do not use the return keyword in a function, then it is implied that is a return type of void. And if you call that function and you expect to have a return value, it will be undefined. Now, the canStart and canStop functions are both using the return keyword, and they are both returning true or false. For this reason, it means that they are both returning a value. Now, it's not possible to tell another developer what the function returns. For that reason, it's good to use different naming conventions like get x, set x, or is running, is not running, is boolean, and so on, or has type, or has something. There's different wordings that you can use to indicate whether or not it returns a value. But this is a little bit more of an advanced topic, but otherwise just try and use a good name for a function that indicates to yourself or to other developers if it does or not return a value. So now that we've looked at how named functions work and how they can have parameters and how the return types are and so on and how we call them, there is something called anonymous functions. Anonymous functions can be assigned to a constant. Now, why you would do this is a bit more of an advanced topic, but just to highlight to you that you can do this is more important. So let's go ahead and convert the code that we have on the screen to use now anonymous functions rather than named functions. So let's start by saying const start is equal to function, and we remove the name of the function. Everything that is highlighted now is an anonymous function. We are assigning it to the constant start. Let's go ahead and do the same with stop. So const stop is equal to function, and we can just cut this out and paste this in here and do the same, and then quickly do it with canStop too. And there we go. So now we have 4 functions do exactly the same thing, but now they're all anonymous functions assigned to constants instead. What the advantages, disadvantage of this, well, that is a little bit more of an advanced topic, but the whole point of this was to highlight to you that you can now do this. So now that we've converted our named functions to anonymous functions, we can take this one step even further and change the anonymous functions to something called arrow functions. Now, arrow functions are a little bit more in depth, and I really don't want to get into it in this, but this is just a slight introduction to show you what arrow functions are. So let's go ahead now and convert all of our functions into arrow functions instead. So an arrow function, we can remove the function keyword, and after the brackets we do nothing much more than say the open brackets, the arrow, and then we've got the statement. We come and do the same with stop once again, and canStart once again, And we can do this once again with can stop, just by making it an arrow function. Now we can modify this even further to shorten this down, and we can do this simply by taking is running here and removing then the brackets and placing it here. So this is really shorthand saying that this function is going to return is running is equal to false. And we can do this with can stop to. There we go. So as you can see, this is now something a little bit completely different, and we've written a lot less code. Whether the code is more readable to you is something else, but this is what you can do. Now the difference between anonymous functions and Lambda functions or arrow functions, there is a difference, and I don't want to get into it in this video. I might make another video about it in the future. If there is, then there'll be a link shown above right now. Okay, but the most important thing that you know is that you've got named functions, anonymous functions, and also then arrow functions. Now, I'll be really interested to know if you can write the difference between an anonymous function and an arrow function in the comment section below for me to be able to judge the amount of knowledge that you do have about JavaScript. So there are another few things that we need to talk about with regards to JavaScript and functions. Functions in JavaScript can also be regarded as classes and objects, but this is something really out the scope of this video. So if you are interested in learning a lot more about JavaScript, then I have many videos about it as well. I'll leave a link in the video description below to my channel page. There you'll find so many videos about JavaScript, PHP, configuring servers, HTML and CSS. There's around about 300 videos all to do with programming. So I have enough content on there for you to learn exactly what you need to learn. But I will also definitely cover classes, objects, and also object scope, function scope and global scope in a following video tutorial. Otherwise, if you did enjoy this video and it did help you, please think about giving it a thumbs up. Like I said in the beginning, it really does assist my videos and also videos on YouTube to be promoted more. Now, if you do have any questions, feedback or comments, please take the time out to ask any questions that you might have in the comment section down below. Now, if I did go over a few things too fast or too slowly, I'm always open for your feedback once again. If you do feel that you want to subscribe to my channel, then go ahead and tap on that red button, but don't forget to tap on the notification bell so when you get notified when I release any new video. But if you don't want to, I'm more than happy that you enjoyed this video. So all I've got left to say now is there's a video on the screen which I think is best for you to watch after this. If not, check out any of the other videos on my channel that might be good for you. Thanks very much for watching and goodbye.